Hello and welcome once more to Red Gaming Tech. My name is Amata. Today is the 15th of May and this time I have some news for you regarding the Oculus Rift, and yes, it is indeed the news we've all been waiting for, as we finally know the recommended specs for your PC in order to actually use the Oculus Rift. Now obviously it's no secret that the Oculus was always going to require some beefy specs on the PC side, and now we finally know what is actually required. So, a NVIDIA GTX 970, AMD 290 equivalent or greater, Intel i5 4590 equivalent or greater, 8GB plus of RAM, a compatible HDMI 1.3 video output, 2 times USB 3 ports, Windows 7 SP1 or newer. I also have a little bit of a statement here, which is actually from the blog post which detailed this, which reads, quotes, "The goal is for the Rift game, all Rift games, and applications to deliver a great experience on this configuration. Ultimately, we believe this will be fundamental to VR success, as developers can optimize and tune their game for a known specification, constantly achieving presence and simplifying development." Now, basically, this means that, well, the specs will not change for the Oculus. So once you hit this minimum, or the recommended should I say, that's how it will stay. So even a couple of years down the line, when obviously PCs are more powerful than they are now, graphics cards are more powerful than they are now, the high-end cards that I just detailed will be cheaper, the Rift will have remained the same. And this came from a more in-depth blog post from Atman Binstock, who is actually the chief architect over at Oculus. And here's what he said. Quote, "The recommended spec will stay constant over the lifetime of the Rift. As the equivalent performance hardware becomes less expensive, more users will have systems capable of the full Rift experience. Developers, in turn, can rely on Rift users having these modern machines, allowing them to optimize their game for a known target, simplifying development." Now, one thing that's going to be a real downer for anyone with a laptop is that, well, you will need a GPU that features HDMI 1.3 video output supporting a 297 MHz clock via a direct output architecture. And Atman had this to say regarding this, quote, "The last bullet point is tricky. Many discrete GPU laptops have their external video output connected to the integrated GPU and drive the external output via hardware and software mechanisms that can't support the Rift. Since this isn't something that can be determined by reading the specs of a laptop, we are working on how to identify the right systems. Note that almost no current laptops have the GPU performance for the recommended spec, though upcoming mobile GPUs may be able to support this level of performance." And well, before you ask, well, why do you actually need this amount of raw power? He actually discussed this as well, and he said, quote, "On the raw rendering costs, a traditional 1080p game at 60Hz requires 124 million shaded pixels per second. In contrast, the Rift runs at 2160 by 1200 at 90Hz, split over dual displays, consuming 233 million pixels per second. At the default iTarget scale, the Rift's rendering requirements go much higher, around 400 million shaded pixels per second. This means that by raw rendering costs alone, a VR game will require approximately 3 times the GPU power of 1080p rendering." So yeah, basically exactly what he said. The Oculus has to work a lot harder because of the amount of pixels being displayed. So yeah. So there you have it. As I said, unfortunately, bad news for laptop owners. It looks like if you want the Rift, well, you might actually be having to think about either getting a PC or perhaps getting the Morpheus if you also own a PS4, because, well, you're not going to find a laptop anytime soon that has the meat required to actually run the Rift. And even PC-wise, you're going to need a pretty high-end rig, but that's not really surprising, unfortunately. Anyway, that's me done for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.